Earth was home to many strange life forms, like towering giants and elusive predators. So in today's video, we're counting down the top 15 most incredible prehistoric animals. Starting with number 15, the world's heaviest animal. Excavations in southern Peru's Ica Valley have uncovered what just may be the heaviest animal ever to grace the planet, a colossal ancient whale. It swam the seas about 39 million years ago and likely weighed 2 to 3 times more than the blue whale. Due to its size, it likely patrolled shallow waters and used an undulating swimming style. However, only research is going to provide more insight into exactly how this animal operated. Number 14, Dinotherium. Looking a lot like an elephant, the Dinotherium was an incredible species in its day. Sporting 2 curved tusks and very flexible limbs, they could easily run, and at about 4 meters in height and 10 tons in weight, they were about as tall as an African elephant, but far heavier. Like elephants, they were also herbivores, and while it was good for a while, the gradual change of their habitat from forested areas to grassland ultimately led to their extinction. Number 13, crocodiles. Most prehistoric animals are long gone. The crocodile has remained a constant, though. That's because while most species from millions of years ago have either evolved or gone extinct, the crocodiles of today look a lot like they did 200 million years ago. According to experts, this is because they have a slow evolutionary rate. In other words, it seems that crocodiles arrived at a body plan that was very sufficient and versatile, so much so that they didn't need to change it in order to survive, and as a result, they've continued to thrive until the present day. Number 12, the saber-toothed tiger. At 1.2 meters in height, 1.7 meters in length, and 400 kilograms in weight, the saber-toothed tiger was smaller but heavier than most modern tigers. While it had a short, stocky build similar to that of a bear, its marquee asset were its massive teeth. At up to 30 centimeters long, they could be used for stabbing and slashing attacks, and the saber-tooth's strong neck and ability to open its mouth at a 90-degree angle supported this movement. It used this flexibility and strength to prey on large mammals. However, as time went on, newer, faster prey began to emerge. These species proved to be too speedy for the saber-toothed tiger, and by about 10,000 BC, they were extinct. Number 11, Megatherium. When you think of a sloth, chances are that a slow, small, sleepy rainforest animal comes to mind. However, in the prehistoric period, there was a ground sloth that was as large as a modern African elephant. Known as Megatherium, it was native to South America and lived between 10,000 and 5 million years ago. While they were a massive 6 meters in length and 4.5 tons in weight, these gentle giants used their large claws and teeth to feed on the leaves of trees and bushes rather than hunt. While this was enough to let them get by for quite a while, a mix of climate change and an increase in human settlement and hunting is believed to have caused the species' eventual extinction. Number 10, the Stegosaurus. Of all the prehistoric herbivores out there, none were quite like the Stegosaurus. Living during the Jurassic period between 150 and 155 million years ago, this iconic dinosaur could be found across western North America and Asia. At up to 9 meters in length and 4 tons in weight, it was essentially the size of a small school bus, and by many accounts, it was the true definition of a bird brain. After all, despite being large physically, its brain was the approximate size of a walnut, making its size to cognitive function ratio extremely low. Yet, despite its lack of deep thoughts, the Stegosaurus was able to do 2 things well: eat ferns and deal with predators. While it could, of course, flee, this dino likely used its spiky, flexible tail to knock out predators that got too close. Contrary to popular belief, this was likely its only defensive weapon, as the 17 spikes along its back were too ill-placed to do much damage. Also known as scoots, they stuck out like 2 alternating rows, and according to experts, were likely used as living solar panels to regulate the Stegosaurus's temperature. Their size was enough that they may also have been used by males to attract mates, although this isn't entirely clear. Beyond being unique, in recent years, the Stegosaurus has also been the subject of a lot of scientific inquiry. As recently as 2017, a promising specimen was discovered in northern China, and upon further excavation, it turned out it had a near-complete skeleton, complete with skin still existing on the bones. According to Associate Professor Go Ying of the Institute of Geology and Paleontology of Linyi University, the skin appears to have been scaly, and it was likely used to help lock moisture into its body, allowing it to adapt and survive in dry climates. As such, I think you'd agree, Stegosaurus truly was an incredible dinosaur. Number 9. the Ichthyosaurus. While the Argentinosaurus may have been the largest prehistoric creature on land, the king of the oceans was the Ichthyosaurus. First emerged about 250 million years ago during the Triassic period. They were large aquatic carnivores that put most modern aquatic creatures to shame. That's because in the heft department, they were absolutely massive. While there were many subspecies of Ichthyosaurus, the largest we found is the Schastosaurus sicanensis, a whale-like creature. It measured in at up to 21 meters long, which for reference is only a few meters smaller than a blue whale, which generally measures in at 24 to 27 meters long. Now, in English, Ichthyosaurus means aquatic lizard, which makes sense given its looks. After all, early skeletons look a lot like lizards with fins, yet over their 160 million year period on Earth, they evolved so they eventually looked like massive fish. Their heads were long and narrow, and their jaws were lined with thin, sharp teeth, as they used these teeth to catch prey such as fish and squid. They would seek out their prey with the massive eyes that were about the size of dinner plates, and when they locked in on what they wanted for dinner, they would use their huge tails to accelerate to speeds of more than 35 kilometers an hour. In tandem, these features managed to place these predators at the top of the aquatic food chain. However, their reign couldn't last forever. At about 90 million years ago, archaeologists believe that severe climate change altered water temperatures so much that they simply couldn't adapt, leading to a relatively quick demise. Yet while these species may have disappeared many years ago, it's worth noting that some of the latest discoveries surrounding them are very recent. For example, in April of 22, the largest known tooth from any ichthyosaur was found high atop the Krakenhorn Mountain in Switzerland. While this may seem strange, this was because this mountain was at the bottom of an ocean during the Triassic period. In any case, the tooth was 6 centimeters wide and 15 centimeters tall, meaning that it must have come from the mouth of a massive ichthyosaur. However, whether or not more teeth like it will be found is anyone's guess. Number 8. Megalania. Australia is a country that's really never gotten a break. After all, while it may have warm temperatures and beautiful beaches, from time of the dinosaurs until today, it's been filled with dangerous creatures. However, despite all the terrifying things there now, nothing quite beats its prehistoric past. That's because until about 50,000 years ago, a giant prehistoric lizard known as Megalania existed on the island. Coming in at a length of 8 meters and weighing 2,300 kilograms, it was a giant monitor lizard that was closely related to the Komodo dragon, and it weighed as much as 10 fully grown American alligators. This made it, a terrifying predator, and it spent its days dining on large marsupials, flightless birds, and giant turtles, eating as much as 45 kilos of meat per day in order to sustain itself. To overpower its prey, it would generally use its tongue to track its prey's movements, ambush it by running it at short bursts, and then using its venomous bite to quickly put it out of its misery. This venom most likely caused the prey's blood to thin, causing the victim to quickly bleed out and enter a systemic shock. Now, despite its imposing figure, it is likely that mere humans led to its demise. Researchers believe that the Megalania's body composition would have likely made it inefficient when attempting to outrun or outcompete the early human settlers. As a result, it's very likely that humans played a large role in its extinction. However, that doesn't mean that the Megalania wasn't a giant pain in the ass from a human perspective. In fact, to this day, some indigenous tribes have oral legends that likely feature this incredible creature, making them some of the oldest oral legends in human history. Incredibly enough, one of these oral legends talks about the Megalania being able to swim. The story claims that one day a Megalania went into the ocean, fought a great white shark and won, and then brought it back to shore and ate it for dinner. And while there is still a debate as to whether or not this story accurately portrays the Megalania's swimming abilities, what is clear is that the species continues to have a cultural impact to this very day. Moving on to number 7, the Argentinosaurus. Of all the prehistoric animals on land, the Argentinosaurus was king amongst them, holding the title of being the largest land dinosaur. It came in at a length of about 37 to 40 meters, a height of about 21 meters, and a weight of about 90 to 100 tons. For reference, that's about as long as 3 school buses, as high as a 6-story building, and as heavy as 9 African elephants. It lived during the late Cretaceous period, and as its name suggests, its home region was what is now Argentina. Despite being massive, this was a gentle giant. As an herbivore, it only ate plants. In order to do so, it used its massive length, although no one knows whether it was able to hold its neck vertically, as would a giraffe, or horizontally so it could forage for leaves. In either case, it survived off a diet of leaves and would take about 40 years to reach its adult size. Now, beyond its physical appearance, its eggs likely came in at a diameter of 30 centimeters, making them some of the largest eggs in history. Incredibly enough, its size wasn't enough to protect it from predators. That's because the Argentinosaurus was preyed upon by packs of Gigantosauruses and Mapusauruses. Due to their large size, these dinos were able to take down an Argentinosaurus in a team effort, and so in order to prevent this from happening, they had a few tricks up their sleeve. So while its max speed of 8 kilometers per hour made it way too slow to run away from any threats, what it did do was travel in herds in order to provide protection. They also had a very light armor to protect from the jaws of their carnivore adversaries, and a bulky tail that could knock away enemies, with many experts believing that it was strong enough to knock a carnivore out. So while they certainly could be taken down, after all, they could be bitten multiple times and bleed to death, hunting an Argentinosaurus was no easy task. To date, the only issue with this species is that no complete skeleton has been found, and as a result, we had to rely on size projections that could be inaccurate. So, until a complete skeleton is unearthed, we may not be able to determine the specifics surrounding the Argentinosaurus. Number 6. A four-legged whale. In August of 2021, an Egyptian team of scientists discovered a prehistoric predator like no other. Considered to be 43 million years old, the fossil in question was found in the Fayum Depression. This is a fossil-rich basin southwest of Cairo and located near the UNESCO World Heritage Site Wadi al-Hitan, which literally translates to Valley of the Whales in English. As the name suggests, it's filled with whales. However, since it's a desert, all of the whale fossils are buried underground. In any case, the species in question was named the Phaeomycetes anubis by the scientists, paying tribute to both the place it was found in and to the ancient Egyptian god Anubis, who was the jackal-headed god of death. Now, in a literal sense, this is because, at least superficially, both have very similar-looking skulls, making them look somewhat familiar. However, far more importantly, it appears that this four-legged whale had fierce, powerful jaws. This likely made it the apex predator in its food chain. According to experts, it was a lot like a modern killer whale, meaning that it was, like Anubis, also a god of death towards its prey. In terms of its physical stats, the team estimates that the whale lived between 34 and 56 million years ago. It was about 3 meters long with a body mass of around 600 kilograms, which for reference is similar to the upper limits of a bottlenose dolphin. However, its trademark legs were perhaps its coolest features. Believed to be fully functional, they would have allowed the creature to walk on land as easily as it swam in the sea. This allowed it to feed on small mammals, crocodiles, and whale calves, regardless of their location. Another curious feature of the fossil is the fact that it's covered in shark bites. While this temporarily put its status as god of death in dispute, the size and positioning of the bites suggest that these sharks were too small to hunt for this four-legged whale. Instead, it's far more likely that the sharks were scavengers converging on the already deceased whale carcass. It's also worth noting that the discovery of this whale was rather historic. That's because it's the first whale fossil to be discovered, named and described by an all-Arabian or Egyptian team. This in turn makes it an important achievement for the study of paleontology in Africa and in the Middle East. Number 5. The Quetzalcoatlus. While this dinosaur's name may be a bit of a mouthful, the Quetzalcoatlus is easily one of the coolest prehistoric species. That's because by all accounts it's considered to be the largest flying creature to ever live. Now, its strange name comes from its looks, as it more or less mirrors the feathered serpent god Quetzalcoatl, worshipped by the Aztecs of Mexico. And with a wingspan of about 5.5 meters and a weight between 200 and 250 kilograms, it was certainly a god-sized bird. For reference, the wandering albatross, which is the largest modern flying animal, is about 1.5 times smaller and 95% lighter. Unsurprisingly, such a large flying creature would be terrifying today, and for prehistoric species living 66 to 100 million years ago, it was no less frightening. Found across what is now North America, experts believe that it likely had feeding habits similar to modern storks, as it probably both scavenged for dead carcasses and preyed on small dinosaurs, snakes, and fish. However, one question that's puzzled scientists is how exactly a 250-kilo species managed to fly. One explanation by Dr. Sankar Chatterjee of Texas Tech University suggests that the dinosaur was far too large to take off on its own. As a result, it would have to rely on running downhill, as would an albatross, to pick up enough momentum, and from there, it would rely on gliding and updrafts in order to keep itself in the air. Yet a recent study from the University of Texas at Austin disagrees. This study suggests that the Quetzalcoatlus likely jumped 3 meters in the air before flapping its giant wings and lifting off. Yet to date, the exact way in which it flew is still not entirely clear. Yet despite this ambiguity, in 1985, the U.S. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, made the interesting choice of using it as the basis for an experimental unmanned aerial vehicle. Their half-scale model had a wingspan that was about as long as that of the Quetzalcoatlus, and it was, for all intents and purposes, an early version of a drone. To make things even weirder, it even had fake feathers intended to closely match the original animal of 140 million years ago. Now, as you might expect, despite looking cool, it never entered widespread production, and this experimental model is now on exhibit at the National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. Number 4. Arctotherium. Today, grizzly bears are one of the largest bears on the planet. However, in prehistoric times, a beast known as the Arctotherium outpaced it. Considered to be the biggest bear to ever walk the planet, it was a descendant of earlier bears that traveled to South America when the Panamanian land bridge opened a connection to North America about 3 million years ago. While a complete skeleton is yet to be found, one of the most famous specimens was discovered in 1935 during the construction of the San Juan de Dios Hospital in La Plata City, Argentina, including a right arm, left arm, part of a shoulder blade, and a few hand bones. Experts were able to determine just from these fossilized remains that the Arctotherium likely maxed out at around 1,600 kilos and was about 3.3 meters tall. While this is about as tall as the largest grizzly and polar bears can stand, its weight made it a much more robust animal. For reference, polar bears tend to max out at around 800 kilos. This makes it twice as heavier than the largest polar bears, and about 9 times heavier than the average spectacled bear, which is its closest living relative. Now, despite its large size, the Arctotherium was not a hyper-carnivorous monster that fed exclusively on giant sloths and other large mammals. Instead, it was likely an omnivore that consumed veggies alongside its meat. This dietary flexibility makes its extinction about 800,000 years ago all the more confusing. After all, how was it possible for such a powerful carnivore to fail to adapt to its surroundings? Well, its changing diet may give us an insight into its demise. Based upon its size and early arrival in South America, experts believe that it started out as a very carnivorous bear that only had to compete with the Smilodon, which is a type of big cat for large prey. However, around 800,000 years ago, the other heavyweight predators began to evolve on the continent, increasing competition. This likely pushed the Arctotherium towards a more plant-heavy diet. However, whether or not this contributed to its ultimate demise is still up for debate. Now, it's worth noting that there's a chance that some of the genes of the Arctotherium still exist today. This is because a 2021 study suggests that the modern spectacled bear may have hybridized with Arctotherium as it migrated southward to South America. Yet whether or not this actually happened is still not entirely clear. Number 3. The woolly mammoth. While African elephants may be the largest land animals around today, at the tail end of the prehistoric period, the woolly mammoth held that title. Coming in at a height of between 3 to 3.4 meters and a weight of up to 4 tons, they were roughly as large as modern-day elephants, although they stood apart because they were well adapted to withstand cold temperatures. Sporting a thick, shaggy fur coat and so well insulated it could survive in temperatures as low as negative 50 degrees Celsius. In order to survive that frigid environment, it would make use of its long tusks. While these tusks were useful for foraging food, they also made them formidable foes. At adult size, these tusks would allow herds of these animals to effectively defend themselves from predators. However, juveniles and weakened adults were still vulnerable to pack hunters such as wolves, cave hyenas, and large felines. Despite these challenges, they stuck around for around 500,000 years, although it was only about 10,000 years ago that they really started to struggle. While the growth of human populations led to even more deaths, experts believe that retreating ice caps were the main cause of their demise, and this destroyed the vegetation that they fed on and ruined their habitat. It's believed that this drove the woolly mammoth north, and it's likely that small populations were able to survive in the Siberian tundra until as recently as 4,000 years ago. However, in June of 2022, a certain specimen from around 30,000 years ago grabbed headlines when it was found almost completely intact. The story goes that a miner was digging for gold deposits in the Canadian Arctic when he saw a dark, shiny animal with short legs emerge. Suspecting he found a mummified baby buffalo, Mudry began inspecting the creature. However, he was in for a shock after he realized that the animal had a trunk. Experts were quickly called in, and after miraculously retrieving the remains just an hour before a storm struck, it was determined to be the body of a woolly mammoth. The experts who investigated her believe she was probably a month old when she got stuck in the mud while grazing, leading to her being abandoned by her mother. The end result was an unfortunate death, yet due to the permafrost, soft tissue like her muscles, skin, and hair were all perfectly preserved. Named Nunchoga by local elders, she now holds the title of being the first complete baby woolly mammoth found in North America, and only the second complete specimen to be found on the entire planet. Number 2. The Megalodon. If you like hanging out at the beach, then you should probably be thankful that the Megalodon no longer exists. Coming in at between 15 to 18 meters in length, it was about 3 times longer than the largest recorded great white shark, and seemed to have lived in all the world's oceans with the exception of those around Antarctica. Considered by many experts to be the largest fish to ever exist on planet Earth, it came in at a max of about 25 meters, and maybe a max weight of about 65 tons. However, what's really shocking about this species is its incredibly large jaws. Its bite diameter was about 3 meters, meaning practically anything could get into its mouth. In order to clamp onto prey, it would make use of triangular, serrated, and symmetrical teeth very similar to that of a modern-day great white. About 276 of them lined its jaws, and at about 18 centimeters in length, they were 3 times larger than those of a modern-day great white. This large bite radius and these massive teeth made it virtually impossible for any prey to escape from its grasp. If that wasn't crazy enough, the Megalodon also had the ability to switch between being warm and cold-blooded through the contraction of their swimming muscles. This contraction raised its body temperature so it was hotter than the surrounding water in a process known as regional endothermy. It's believed that this rare adaptation might have allowed the Megalodon to swim and hunt in colder waters, giving it the exclusive access to prey in those locations. It's likely due to these crazy physical abilities that the Megalodon was the apex predator of the world's oceans for about 17.5 million years. However, around 2.5 million years ago, worldwide water temperatures plummeted, and the number of organisms at the bottom of the food chain plummeted too. This led to the predators at the top having a lack of prey, and while their range contracted, they attempted to go to more suitable areas. The Megalodon ultimately went extinct. In 2022, supposedly a megalodon hit the news after researchers picked up a recording of what appeared to be a 15-meter-long and 36-ton shark using a sea scanner. An accompanying screenshot was even shaped like a shark, leading many to believe that the megalodon may still exist. However, after further investigations, the recording turned out to be simply a school of Atlantic mackerel, causing the excitement of the researchers and those following along on the internet to quickly fade away. Number 1. The Tyrannosaurus Rex. No list of prehistoric animals would be complete without the one and only Tyrannosaurus Rex. Known as T-Rex for short, its name translates to tyrant lizard in English, and it existed right before the extinction of the dinosaurs about 66 million years ago. Living in what is now Western North America, it was nothing short of an alpha predator within its habitat, coming in at 12 meters in length, 4 meters in height, and about 6 tons in weight. For reference, it was about as large as a school bus. Beyond its size, it also had some pretty crazy physical characteristics too. For example, its strong thighs and a powerful tail allowed it to counterbalance its large head, enabling it to run at max speeds of about 45 kilometers an hour, despite its awkward shape. This speed allowed it to chase down its prey pretty easily, which it could then chomp down on with its impressive set of teeth. Measuring in at as much as 30 centimeters in length, these teeth were both serrated and wide, and were arranged in such a way that they could withstand the force of a struggling dinosaur. Now, these teeth were so good at their job that they could take down 230 kilograms of flesh in a single bite, ensuring that their prey would not get away. Generally speaking, this prey consisted of benign herbivores such as Edmontosaurus and Triceratops, and due to their relatively small size, they were no match for the T-Rex. Interestingly enough, many experts also believe that while the T-Rex's arms may have played a larger role in how it interacted in an environment, internet memes ridicule T-Rex arms for being tiny. They were, in fact, quite large, coming in at up to a meter long and being able to carry up to 180 kilograms. This, in turn, made them quite useful. To date, only a few T-Rex skeletons have been found. In total, There's numbers less than 100, and only about 30 of them have been anything close to a full skeleton. Of all those, Sue is the most complete one to have been found. Discovered on August 12, 1990 by American explorer and fossil collector Sue Hendrickson, the T-Rex was named after her and found in the U.S. state of South Dakota. A final tally of the bones discovered that the T-Rex was more than 90% intact. However, immediately afterwards, a series of ownership disputes erupted. You see, the Black Hills Institute, which was the group that Sue Hendrickson was a part of, had obtained permission from the owner of the land, Maurice Williams, to excavate and remove the skeleton. They paid Williams $5,000 in return. However, once the skeleton was discovered, Williams claimed that the money had not been for the sale of the fossil, and that he had instead only allowed Black Hills to remove and clean the fossil for a later sale. To make matters even more complicated, the property where the fossil had been found was held in trust by the United States Department of the Interior, and this resulted in a very complex ownership situation. However, the ultimate decision was that because the land was U.S. federal property, the Black Hills Institute had acted illegally by digging there, and the feds went on to charge many of its members for both Sue's discovery and a host of other illegal digging operations. However, despite the fact that the T-Rex was in the hands of the feds, it was decided that the bones ultimately belonged to a landowner, Maurice Williams. In any case, once all the legal battles were settled, Sue was auctioned off for a whopping $8.3 million in October of 1997. At the time, this was the highest amount ever paid for a dinosaur fossil, and it's held the title for the next 23 years. Thankfully, it wasn't a private owner, but a series of donors on behalf of Chicago's Field Museum that were behind the purchase. As a result, Sue is now permanently on display there, although she is currently on temporary display at the Royal BC Museum in the Canadian city of Victoria. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Thank you to our channel members.
And we out. Peace, gang. You already know. Like, subscribe, hit that bell, turn on post notifications so you don't miss another banger. And yeah, on the road to, you already know. Once we hit 500 subscribers, we on the road to 500K. Let's get it, gang. I'm just getting started. No cap, no kizzy. Y'all can hate me though, but I know I got some real supporters that's gonna subscribe. So yeah, make sure you subscribe and turn on that bell so you don't miss another banger though. And yeah, comment what else you want to see. And yeah, comment some pranks, some Q&A questions. And yeah. And yeah, let me know how you like my music too, gang. No kizzy. We out. Peace.